So what makes Iron Man Iron Man? I think the first thing that people miss, and it is the whole point, is that it's not the suit. The suit matters, obviously. The suit amplifies him, it extends his reach, his speed, his force, his ability to intervene with things. It's his tools for manifestation. It lets him act at a scale that matches his imagination. But it's not the suit that makes him that. It's his imagination, which is being amplified through it, that makes him a superhero. So, in a way, it's not the reactor embedded in his chest. It's the other way around. Tony Stark himself is the actual engine of Iron Man. So, like, basically, what I'm getting at is that, like, what makes Tony Stark potent as a character is that he, like, yeah, he's smart, rich, you know, inventive, and all that stuff, um, and traumatized enough to like adapt on the fly and like be innovative, kind of like that MacGyver-ish, like when shit hits the fan, I'm really used to it, so I can kind of get my way out of this and like figure it out. But he has this really deep capacity for duality. Um, so like while you got characters like Deadpool where it's kind of just crass joke after crass joke, Tony Stark like trickles it in there, you know, like his he can hold absurdity and seriousness at the same time, you know. Like he can be under crushing pressure facing the end of the world with like Thanos staring him in the eyes and still crack a joke, you know. And like a lot of people read that and as like charm and stuff like that, but that specific characteristic of him is a lot deeper than that. Humor is regulatory. It diffuses charge that's building up. It keeps him from being possessed by his own myth. I mean, like we don't know what happens in the Doomsday or you know like the whole Doctor Doom arc. I'm not going to get into that shit, but you know, retrospect right now. It keeps him from being possessed by his own myth, and they kind of like touch on like motifs on that, like throughout the MCU, and yeah, Tony Stark like really like he really embodies that, and I think like that matters more than people think because when someone's carrying something with a lot of force, power, and like revelation, responsibility, intelligence, whatever you call it, they need some way for the pressure to move, and if they don't have that, they start to calcify and they get rigid. They start believing too hard in their own role, or they become a servant of the mask instead of the operator inside of it. You know, it's kind of like Thanos. He is like a really good example of that. Like he saw like the oxymoron of existence, and he chose a very rigid attempt to bring harmony and softness to that. You know, most people when they come to that decision, they go super rigid or they go super chaotic. You know, and I think his humor is what keeps him from fusing completely with the suit. And you know, and it's not just the suit. Like yeah, sure, the suit's important and stuff like that or whatever, you know. But like you see other people try to copy the tech and you know make their own suit, and it just like it just doesn't amount to what Tony does, you know. And yeah, and you know it's not just comic relief. It's ventilation of pressure like inside of the system. You know, it's like it's proof that there's still movement enough for him to kind of pass through without locking into some sort of like messiah complex. You know, like his absurdity isn't a distraction from his potency, and that's what makes him like a really potent vessel in the first place. Which is funny because he is a vessel for a reactor, and then he is like the reactor for Iron Man. Like, yeah, it's super interesting. He's kind of like Enoch in that way, not like a one-to-one fandom kind of way, but like archetypally. You know, because like in the Book of Enoch, like Enoch isn't important because he has access to revelation. He's important because he can survive contact with a greater order of reality, and then he returns with something coherent. Um, He can witness like what's beyond the veil, beyond the ordinary human scale, without completely losing himself inside of it and becoming a part of it. And he becomes like a bridge, an intermediary, a vessel, you know. Like Tony does the same thing, but like in a technological kind of way versus like a cosmic one, which kind of is funny because it brings him to the cosmic realization. And it's funny because it's like you'll go all the journey of trying to innovate your way to like salvation, and then you realize that you end up at the same exact finish line as the spiritual journey towards salvation. Anyways, as above, so below. We'll get into Hermeticism, but yeah, it's you know, it's not the metal, it's not the weapons, it's not the branding, or even the genius itself. It's like it's the capacity to carry magnitude and flux and waveforms and ampage without becoming something blown apart by it, controlled by it, or like, you know, mistaking itself for it. And I think that that's the real like heroic trait about him. Yeah, I don't know. I think that that's enough rambling about Tony Stark today. But yeah, maybe we'll pick up on this later. This is a test run.